Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. We are just accepting all the participants, and we are going to start in a few seconds. Okay.
Hello.
I'm accepting a few more participants, and just please wait a few seconds, and we're going to start. Okay, I think we are ready to go. I hope you can all hear me well. I'm going to present myself first. I am Renato. Welcome, everyone. I'm the research manager at the Open Data Charter, and I'm going to be hosting this session. First of all, a friendly reminder that we do have Spanish interpretation available, so you just have to push the button at the menu at the bottom of your screen, and you can just change the language from English to Spanish. And also a few housekeeping reminders. We are going to be recording this meeting because then we upload it to our YouTube channel to share it with the network, because some people are missing the session and then they want to catch up. So if you don't want to be part of the recording, please just turn off your cameras, and we are going to begin the recording now. We encourage you to introduce yourself in the chat with your name and your organization. Today we have a pretty packed session because we have 4 speakers, but we're going to try to leave a few minutes for a Q&A session at the end. So if you have questions during the presentations, please feel free to leave them in the chat, and we are going to take them at the beginning of the presentation of all the speakers. And also, I'm going to be sharing our calendar, because we have a public calendar with different events. I'm going to be sharing it in the chat soon. Well, let's go. Let's talk about today's topic. The topic today is AI, privacy, and governance training, and each of our speakers will be discussing this from the perspective of their countries where they are working from. This is a huge topic, and we're going to have more sessions on AI and data privacy during the year with different approaches. So please just stay tuned for the different sessions that we're going to have. The truth is that those here working in government or with governments in this topic, the idea is that you can be equipped and inspired with new highlights and with different projects that the network are working on, and to gain the knowledge to ensure that AI policies and data governance projects work for all people and communities. So we really hope you learn something today, and you get inspired by the work of our partners and our speakers to continue being ambassadors for openness and data rights in these important topics in the actual global context. We have 4 speakers today. I'm going to be presenting them once in each turn, and they're going to be giving us some highlights on their work. Our first speaker today is Leonida Mutuku. It's the AI Research Director at the Local Development Research Institute from Kenya. And the topic of the presentation is going to be AI for All, Perspectives on Participatory AI Governance. So Leonida, if you're here, please feel free to introduce yourself, and you can just start with your presentation. Perfect. We can see
You can hear me as well?
Yeah, now I can hear you, and we can see your presentation. So great. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much, Renato, for hosting me. And it's a pleasure to join your working group meeting today and to share some of our experiences from Kenya. So as Renato mentioned, I work at the Local Development Research Institute, which is a think tank based here in Nairobi, Kenya. And at LDRI, we basically support African countries in their efforts to end extreme poverty, hunger, and inequality through practical, accountable, and inclusive evidence-informed actions. And we do this through a number of practice areas. So for today's conversation, I'll mainly concentrate on our AI practice and our governance practice. So so our AI governance practice has a number of objectives, but mainly we are supporting countries to really reduce that trust deficit between governments and citizens, using accountable and open government practices. So at the core of this is how can we innovate with technology and data to ensure that citizens are actively engaged with their governments and reduce that trust deficit. Secondly, we are also working specifically with our AI practice to create standards and norms for the public sector to adopt responsible AI practices. And not just the public sector, but also make it the status quo for all companies deploying AI in our context. So why did I choose to speak about participatory AI governance? I think a lot of conversations today on governance are at the global level. At the various summits, people are signing different declarations and different engagements, but those different mechanisms that are being adopted for global best practice for AI governance are far removed from the citizens, the people who will actually be impacted by the AI tools deployed. So then how then do we make sure that the citizen, the person who is ultimately a beneficiary of these AI systems is at the core of governance practices and make sure that AI governance really works for them? And going back to our initial objectives, we increase the trust in public institutions and also the ability for people to economically benefit from AI. So for our approach is really a human-centered design approach. And we believe at LDRI and based on the work that we do, that participation happens at various levels. So not just putting out a policy and expecting people to engage with their AI. So participatory engagement means having participation at the design level of AI. AI is very contextual and nuanced. And so a key aspect of that is collecting community data and ground truth data. And we want to make sure that these processes are not extractive from the communities who are involved. So it calls for the implementation of data governance practices that promote community interests, including clear communication on how this data is being collected, what it will be used for, getting informed consent, and this is usually a bit controversial, what we mean by informed consent, but also proactively maintaining guidelines on how the data you collect from the communities will influence the AI models so that you create this transparency between the communities providing data for AI systems and once more, going back to that issue of improving trust. Secondly, we also believe as part of participatory governance, having and in our case, we are now talking about Kenyans as active developers of AI. So there, in as much as we might have collected contextual data, there's a need for local practitioners to economically gain and benefit from AI through the development process. But local participation also ensures that our unique context, cultural heritage, and other necessary societal needs are represented in the AI systems, and that is part of the technical governance aspect. The third thing is as active consumers of AI. So this is now when AIs have been developed. As much as possible, we have tried to identify the biases and other trust and safety issues. We want to make sure that all citizens have equitable and fair access to the benefits offered by AI technologies. So this means how do we ensure, as part of that decision making, people have the necessary education and the necessary literacy to benefit from these AI systems. So it's really important to establish clear mechanisms for how to access, and if any harms are caused, how to access redress mechanisms so that everyone feels that they have a fair access and responsible use of AI. So that lays the groundwork for our foundational principles on AI governance. And this is work we have been doing with the Open Government Partnership that many of you might be aware of. And so the first thing that is really important as foundational elements of participatory AI governance approaches is to make sure, of course, it's inclusive. So all members of society should be able to be represented in the decision making and in the design of these governance mechanisms and in a manner that makes sense for them. So putting out a call for participation on social media is not enough. You actually have to go to the community where they are. The second thing, of course, is transparency. And here we have been talking about this in governance conversations for the longest time, how to ensure that there's closed feedback loops. So people are not just contributing to through public participation, but also receive feedback on what their contributions, how they were implemented, and how the policies were adapted to make sure that the AI governance mechanism is inclusive. Of course, a word I'm using so much today, trust. But trust also is in how, if you invite citizens to participate, they need to trust that the process is secure, that there will be no ramifications because they contributed to a policy. So how do we ensure that even at the participation level, we preserve their data and their information and ensure that it is a safe space for people to give feedback on AI governance policies. And the last one that's very important for our context is that a lot of, going back to the example of global governance frameworks, they are all well and good, and they are good for establishing harmonization protocols and the ability for people to, like from country to country, context to context, we have best practices standards. However, when it comes to our own context, we need to ensure that the governance frameworks that people are participating in and even the mechanisms of participation adhere to cultural context and the local needs. So not just, let's say, copy-pasting the GDPR for our context, but having something that makes sense in terms of data protection laws and other AI governance models. Sorry about that. So, so a number of things are needed in place, particularly at the institutionalization level, to ensure that then AI governance is participatory. And this is what we have been researching and think is important. So the first one is that it's one thing to have the spirit, but having legal structures that mandate participation is very important. So for us in Kenya, public participation is a constitutional right. So, but beyond it being a constitutional right, we have been supporting public participation bill to ensure that it covers nuances of AI governance and that all aspects of AI governance has public participation as part of the process. The second thing is, of course, having that political commitment to act on citizen feedback. It is very important that there is a systematic way that when citizens give their input into governance models, particularly AI policies that matter for them, that there is a specific way to close that feedback loop and ensure that the inputs have been accounted for, and whether they work or not, there is a resolution to that process. And this could be through a tracking system. And finally, of course, decentralizing this. AI is novel, our own national governments are grappling with it. But if we decentralize ways of contributing, as I mentioned earlier, village councils at the church level, at other gatherings where public participation is happening at the grassroots level, then it will empower citizens, it will enable citizens to know that they are actively contributing to AI governance. So one thing we know is that there is a lot of different camps depending on where you come from. Some political camps want there to be AI laws and regulation. Others want the sector to evolve and then apply legislation to the AI sector afterwards. But in the absence of structured guidelines for AI, we are proposing proactive citizen engagement frameworks. This means that as a company collecting training data from communities to train your AI, or as institutions that are deploying AI systems, that you are proactively preserving the rights of citizens through ensuring that you have the right understanding of context and the data you collect, of course, following data protection laws, and even beyond that, you don't collect more than you need, that it's justifiable and that it makes sense for that context. The second thing, of course, is protection of this data once you've collected it throughout the process, and an established mechanism to ensure that people are trusting in the systems, even in the absence of, let's say, specific legislation, because AI data goes beyond personal data to other forms of community data, language data, farming communities, the farm locations, etc. So just having a systematic way to provide access along the way is important. And of course, self-determination and informed consent. Paying citizens to give you their data does not mean that they are informed. So this is something that companies really need to be thinking about, and even thinking of codes of conduct to support that process. So as I close this presentation, I just wanted to give two examples of how LDRI is supporting participatory AI governance in Kenya. The first one is working very closely with the OGP community. We have been working on a citizen engagement framework that gives you a checklist and a resource tool that, as a company, in the absence of legislation or guidelines on how to proactively close that feedback loop with the citizen, with the beneficiary of the AI systems, you can follow so that you know how to disclose the right information, how to request the right feedback from citizens, and how to keep that engagement constant and dynamic. Secondly, we also applied our approach to the development of Kenya's AI strategy, which was just published last month. And one of the things we were very keen on is engaging the public right from the conception and the design of the strategy, the topics, the thematic areas that the strategy should cover, all the way to once it was drafted, once it was in a final format, put it out for validation first with AI stakeholder communities, including the government, and finally, public participation on the final document to get feedback from the wider, any interested Kenyan tech companies and other people participating in the AI ecosystem in Kenya to give feedback on the document, so that it's not just a government document, but a Kenyan document. So I'll stop there, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Leo, for your presentation. It's great to know and learn a little bit more of what you're working on and doing. I was thinking in how you highlight the importance of the context when you're running a training, or when you're thinking in a strategy, to really take into consideration the local needs, and also the importance on those topics to try to build trust between different stakeholders with a human-centered approach. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. And now I'm going to switch to Pedro Saliba, who works as Asymmetries and Power Coordinator in Data Privacy Brazil. And he's going to share with us on the topic of data governance and AI challenges in Brazil, how tech legal framework engages with fundamental rights and public bodies practices. So thank you so much, Pedro, and now the floor is yours.
Thank you, Renato. Thank you, Mercedes, and everybody from ODC. My name is Pedro Saliba. I'm a project coordinator at Data Privacy Brazil, and on this presentation, I wanted to share a little bit about our work and how tech regulations in Brazil, they change public body practices and how civil society in Brazil are engaging with it to promote a more inclusional framework for these regulations in Brazil. So first of all, a little bit about Data Privacy Brazil. We are a nonprofit civil society organization that promotes protection of personal data and other fundamental rights in the emergency of new technologies, social inequalities, and power asymmetries. We work to promote a culture of data protection and ensure that digital rights and fundamental rights are for everyone and are respected with the new technologies such as AI and other forms of digital technologies. We work on three main levels. There are training, advocacy, and research. We started as a teaching hub about the new data protection legislation in Brazil in 2018, and in 2020 we started the research association, and with these three branches, we work closely with other civil society organizations, but also with public bodies, governments all around Brazil. We have three lines and projects branches. There are governance and regulation, asymmetries in power, and digital platforms and markets. Within those lines, we work with these different projects, trying to engage public bodies with these new legislations and how we can assure that fundamental rights in Brazil are being respected within those. These are some of our publications. Most of them are in Portuguese, but we also have some of them in English and also in Spanish, some of them, but mostly in Portuguese. But our website is available with our blog posts, and some of them are also in English. So if anyone are curious about, these ones were with the Constitutional Court in Brazil about deepfakes. These are about AI on the beginning of the debates of the AI Act in Brazil. And these are about data protection and environmental policies, especially with the Amazon rainforest. We are trying to promote transparency on public databases that are about environmental data, so that we can find so people that are deforesting Brazilian Amazon can be responsible for those crimes. About our training, here are some of our work. These were on a conference in São Paulo. We also work with schools and social movements. This is in Salvador, that is in Bahia. This one was about digital public infrastructures in Brasilia last year, that we worked about with private sector, public sector as well. And this was the AI Summit in São Luís on the last year. Because of the G20 presidency of Brazil, we tried to engage different institutions to promote a declaration about AI rights in Brazil. We also work with with different networks. This one was an event with public defenders in Brazil about digital rights with social movements. And I wanted to share a little bit about two main problems that we have and how we are trying to engage with these problems within social movements, NGOs, academia, public sector, private sector. And the first one is around AI legislation in Brazil. So in 2021, the Brazilian artificial intelligence strategy was launched, but it lacked important elements such as implementation, planning, targets, relevant definitions, and even a budget. Last year, on December of last year, Brazilian Senate's bill was approved, including concepts, principles, and foundations for AI use. This legislation is not is still in lack of the approval from the deputy chambers in Brazil. So this was the first step for this legislation in Brazil to be valid, to be working. But we noticed that many public bodies were in doubt about how this was going to affect the private sector with such things as innovation, but also and primarily the work of different kinds of organizations, because ChatGPT and other platforms of Gen AI are already available, and most of them are free. Many people use them on a daily basis in Brazil. So people are very worried about how to use that without being lawful, you know, without breaking any laws or any rules in Brazil. And another thing that I wanted to highlight here is that our bill has a authority to work on AI regulations, but it's not fully defined yet. The expectation is that the Data Protection Authority in Brazil is also going to be the AI authority, but it has many conflicts on the legislative state, because the Communications Authority wants to be the AI authority. So we are working closely on that to follow these discussions. If anyone is interested about an in-depth analysis of the first round of the law in Brazil, the text that was approved by the Federal Senate, we have this text, this blog post that is in English with a deep analysis on that. I'm gonna keep the link here. By the end of the presentation, I'll share the link on the chat as well. Another problem that we have a lot in here in Brazil is about data protection and public transparency. When the data protection law in Brazil was approved, that was in 2018, and came into force two years later in 2020, many public bodies stopped sharing information, citing privacy concerns as a justification. And Brazil has a very robust normatives about public transparency since at least 2011. The Brazilian Constitution, that is from 1988, it has public transparency norms, and we have specialized legislations on public transparency, but the data protection law started this misinterpretations by public servants all around Brazil. So we are working closely with the national authority, the data protection national authority, that is a NPD here in Brazil, and the officer of the Comptroller General. They're responsible for transparency and open government issues. We are working with them to prevent misinterpretations of the law, ensuring that FOIA requests and open data initiatives are not hindered by data protection regulations. We are working also as an entity for the National Data Protection Board, and we are working with also the private sector to ensure that the transparency regulations are not being left over because of the data protection law. We have some gaps and obstacles to overcome related to this, and most of it is related to training. So as public bodies do want to promote active transparency about data and other services, and also about AI, they do want to use AI, and they want to many of them even create AI systems, but they lack training and time to understand the social technical issues about these tools and these platforms. Also, the misinterpretation of data protection in AI principles, not only about the laws that are approved in Brazil, but also about how, for example, how Gen AI works and how we have to use this tool, but without, for example, creating judicial cases that do not exist. Many public bodies, especially on the judiciary in Brazil, had this kind of problem about using Gen AI to research, but they created judicial cases that did not exist, and people did not bother to take a look on it. Also, lack of resources to guarantee safe and open technologies. It has very different budget levels in Brazil, federal, states, and municipalities, but also within, for example, federal entities. Many of them have more resources than others. So we have this obstacle about how to become a more equal level for all of public bodies. And also techno solution is within public bodies. Many of them believe that only acquiring this kind of technologies will solve all of the problems. But we are trying to make sure that, yes, many of them can be solved, but not all of them. Also, you have another problems to solve because of this technology. So this is some kind of work that we are doing here at Datamorfosis Brazil. We do that on press. We make research and also events with public institutions. We work on the justice system in Brazil, such as the Supreme Federal Court. The G20, we worked on the inclusive digital transformation on T20 in Brazil last year, and we working closely on the BRICS, BRICS Summit, and also with networks such as Global South Alliance and civil society on the National Council for Data Protection in Brazil. Also, we have the stats about a fair information ecosystem. Sorry,
Pedro. Yes, we only have 1 more minute. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Great.
Thank you, Renato. Also, I have this LinkedIn and our website if you want to take a closer look on our work. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Pedro, for your presentation. I took some notes, and I think there are a lot of things to highlight, but I would like to highlight in this occasion the thing that you mentioned, the need for a multi-stakeholder approach, what you're doing both in your research and in your trainings to build capacity And also this connection with of the tech legal frameworks with fundamental and human rights. And especially we have been following your work on the dialogue between data protection and transparency policies, and we are also working on that line. We have a blog series and we have a few research documents. So I think they are both fundamental human rights, both the right to privacy and the rights of access to information. So we should find ways on specific use cases to make them dialogue and work together. And also, I think that the role of public bodies in this new when they are applying these new regulations, it's a really huge challenge, and there's a lot of work to share knowledge and to make them achieve their goals better. Thank you so much. Now I'm going to jump to my next speaker, that is Asiman Mammadzada. It's a senior data scientist in the Innovation and Digital Development Agency of Azerbaijan. And the topic of the presentation is going to be Artificial Intelligence Strategy of Azerbaijan. So the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So let me share my screen. Well, can you see the screen now?
Yes.
I think you should.
It's working. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, is it? Thank you very much. Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation. So today I, Asymon Mammadzada, will be talking as a representative of senior data scientist with chief position. We'll be talking about the artificial intelligence strategy of Azerbaijan from the perspective of Innovation and Digital Development Agency. So recently, we know that, as we know, like as it's open to public, that, for example, the Azerbaijan the national strategy for the artificial intelligence has been signed by the Mr. President Ilham Aliyev, which actually shows that the artificial intelligence strategy of the Republic of Azerbaijan for around 2025 and 2028, the period of the time period. So basically, the first and the underlying point here is that the human capital expansion. So as we know that currently in the world, there is a lack of the human capital development in this sector particularly. So Azerbaijan took this point as a priority and start to put the main priority of the human capital development, in particular artificial intelligence, machine learning, and data science. And the next section of this part, it is the creation of the Artificial Intelligence Academy. Namely, it's the underlying point here is to fortify the education system of artificial intelligence within the country, and cooperating with different education institutions in terms of it could be the universities, it could be the kind of the local educational institutions to increase the human capital potential, which actually mentioned in the strategy itself. And the third and another one of the main strategies of Azerbaijan is actually the implementation of artificial intelligence models to improve the public services for the citizens of Azerbaijan. It could be different public services, starting from electronic government, digitalization of the government, and applying those digitalization sectors in artificial intelligence in digitalization sectors to improve the citizen satisfaction in a relationship with the governmental services. And another point, I would say, final one of the main points is to actually enable the people to have an access to the data in education institutions, to conduct their researches, and to apply the artificial intelligence-based models, machine learning models on their data sets as are publicly available for their convenience. So, of course, in terms of the privacy and confidentiality problems, it could be, of course, the masked and encrypted, and those encrypted data will be shared to the public. And one of other points here is that the identification of computational resources. And what kind of computational resources? Namely, it could be GPU systems or data management services. It could be another memory issue that we have. So basically, we need to identify the computational resources and provision of them for better, and I would say the more accurate model creation and as well as production. And one of the points is actually Azerbaijan currently actually lacks the Azerbaijan language corpus. So Azerbaijan currently gives a full focus on creation of the language corpus of Azerbaijan to build strong and kind of NLP-based artificial intelligence models. And of course, another point, of course, to improve the education, human capital, but as well as support the researchers on their conducting their researches. In terms of Azerbaijan aims to select 10 AI scientists in this area to support them financially and computational sources to conduct their researches and present their findings to the government. But data reachability is one of the problems, as I said, like in case of the AI we told, so it basically needs to be data reachable and as well as data quality-wise clean, and I would say the structure. So open data portal has been, is it going to be soon is going to be published to the public. So basically planned to be open to the public, and it has very technically strong support and as well as data management available, API availability, and the management tool we use, the scan actually, is actually one of the tools in the open data portal, has been applied in a variety of the countries as well. And data request availability. So basically people are able to request some certain types of data, some certain sectors of data so that they can use on their researches, they can use their own kind of on their own interests in terms of AI and machine learning. But currently we have around like 400 data sets, and those data sets are around like in 12 different categories are public to the people, and 10 of the from 10 different governmental institutions. And we are actually planning to expand this soon, so to make it public and reachable for every single citizen of Azerbaijan to conduct their researches in artificial intelligence and the machine learning as well as data science. But when we talk about Azerbaijan, I mean, our Innovation Digital Development Agency are one of the pivotal points of this artificial intelligence and Azerbaijan digitalization. So current position in Innovation Digital Development Agency, namely IDDA, we call it, so has so many options, so many strategies are actually planned to apply in different governmental institutions. Innovation Digital Development Agency, I mean, is not about the local government institution, but also start to make consulting in artificial intelligence public organizations. So different various areas it could be considered, namely healthcare system, justice system, and as well as agriculture we support. We're basically providing possible artificial intelligence use cases. We analyze the public entities and get their pain points and understand how can we apply, utilize artificial intelligence strengths to minimize the load of the daily jobs and optimize the processes. And conducting, actually, we actually conduct different types of regular workshops, trainings to the people in terms of, again, relying to the recently signed strategy to expand the human capital, develop the human capital in different areas, namely data literacy, data analysis, and most importantly, data science, providing their top educational, training standards, which are actually, like I would say, from the mathematical foundation of the algorithms, and as well as every single moral, and I would say the algorithm analysis and the different structure. This is actually, the main purpose is actually here empowering public employees with essential digital skills in data science and artificial intelligence. And another point we actually aim to set up is metrics. So metrics and evaluation tools for assessing the current models, artificial intelligence models that we currently have. Because when we have the artificial intelligence models in production, we need to conduct, some research, some analysis in terms of evaluate their the metrics. It could be, I don't know, like basic points could be accuracy, precision, recall, if it's classification, or different metrics, machine learning metrics to apply to understand what is kind of the current stage. And should we actually put it on the production to rely on its answer and to give to the citizen to improve the bridge between the government and the citizen itself, the government services. And one of the main points we actually plan to have is to find the people, because sometimes the people are super silent, despite the fact that they have super skills, digital skills, technical skills, and as well as our AI-based skills, but they're silent. They are not kind of seen. And we are in the process of discovering those people, local peoples within the country of Azerbaijan, so that we can put them on the trainings and like give them full support to find it. But the logic, the simple strategy here to actually help different types of hackathons and artificial intelligence. So we are planning to hold a hackathon AI regarding this AI hackathon in the healthcare systems. So so that we can have rapid ideation and discovery of the new talents within the country itself. And another current position of AI, Innovation Digital Development Agency is within the AI is actually creation of the chatbot for governmental services. What I mean in the government, so Azerbaijan has a super dynamic electronic government system, namely, so we have the MyGov website, so you can join there, you can go there, and I mean, do some variety of the public services online within the without the paper, paperless jobs, and like within the seconds you can finalize the steps. So we actually, as a government institution, plan to have very good virtual chatbot there so that we can have faster responses to the citizen queries, and as well as we can ensure that there is a continuous support, 24/7 hour support for the citizens beyond the traditional working hours. So the citizen at any time can join to the system, and as well as if he or she has some kind of, let's say, some difficulties to find a specific service, or he has some question regarding with the payment, regarding with the fines she has, or it could be any type of question regarding with the public services. So that person can write the question there and get the response at any time of the day. And also the thing that the chatbot is planned to be multilingual in terms of not only Azerbaijani, English, and Russian, and variety of the language as well. So from different, the parts of the world, so people can ask their questions regarding the regulation system of Azerbaijan and how kind of get the kind of general idea about the Azerbaijan regulation systems. It could be for foreigners as well, for some the public services for the foreigners. It could ease the way that the communication with different embassies that they have difficulties communicating with Azerbaijani. So they can use their own languages to build smooth and as well as kind of clear communication between those two. And another point, as I said before, is navigating the citizens on online platforms. So they can be navigated so that they can find the most appropriate public services that can solve their current issues. Of course, user experiences are super the public. So Azerbaijan aims to build MyGov system with the simplest way of possible, kind of to put it in a simple manner, so that search boxes simply, so that people can simply just write their own concerns and get the services. That's all. Very simple as possible. Of course, some process documentation and consultation stages as well are with the governmental services for the citizens are another point of the current position of IDA in artificial intelligence, using chatbot, artificial intelligence based powered chatbots. So this is mainly the strategy of our Azerbaijani about the artificial intelligence. The main point again is that for increasing the human capital expansion so that we can put a very good investment in different areas, okay? So that's all. Thank you very much for your attention. And should you have any questions, just feel free to let me know. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I think it's great for this session in particular to understand and to learn how an AI strategy works in practice from a government perspective. And also, I would like to highlight the things that you share with us about your capacity building program and how you build an academy to create capacity within the government. And also another thing that I think it's really, really important among various things that you mentioned, but how you work on metrics to really measure the impact of these initiatives and these policies. And also it's great to know how you work on the link on open data and AI within the agency. So thank you so much for your presentation. And now we are going to switch to our last speaker. I don't know if Andrea is here or Atenas, maybe one of them. They are from Datamorfosis, and they are going to present on data leaders for the public sector certificate in collaboration with the Organization of the American States School of Government. It's a program for the public sector. And so the floor is yours, and please feel free, if you feel more comfortable, to speak in Spanish. You remember, everyone, that we have an interpretation button with a translation. So Atenas or Andrea, the one who is here, please, the floor is yours.
Listo, muchas gracias Renato. Estoy aquí explorando para compartir.
Perfecto. Solo un reminder de, tenemos poco tiempo, así que podemos hacer 6, 7 minutos, si te parece bien.
No te preocupes, sí, con mucho gusto.
Perfecto.
Con mucho gusto podemos hacer eso. Ouch, no me permite compartirles.
Ahora,
Ya,
perfecto.
gracias. Listo. Bueno, queremos compartirles un poco de Datamorfosis. Primero agradecerles, Renato, Mercedes, también por este espacio. Y bueno, el programa de formación de líderes de datos en el sector público es un proyecto que realizamos junto con la Organización de Estados Americanos y de hecho en una de las clases tuvimos el privilegio de que nos acompañara Mercedes de los Santos. Y esto nace en un esquema de lo que pretendía ser Datamorfosis como una empresa. Datamorfosis es una agencia de asesoría que estamos acompañando a las instituciones públicas en sus procesos de transformación digital a través de los datos. Siempre con el centro, teniendo en el centro a las personas, porque recordemos que todas las políticas que hoy tenemos nacen de los derechos humanos. O sea, como platicábamos hace algún momento, el derecho de acceso a la información pública nos da la pauta para tener políticas de transparencia, el derecho para acceder a una vida libre de violencia para las mujeres nos da la pauta para tener políticas de equidad y de paridad, ¿no? Entonces, el centro deben ser las personas siempre. Nuestro objetivo es ofrecer servicios de extremo a extremo, buscando entender y atender también las necesidades particulares de cada cliente. Lo hacemos a través de 3 ejes principales, que es analizando el ecosistema institucional. Entendemos cómo está ese arreglo, ese entramado institucional bajo el cual opera un líder y su equipo. La formación de equipos, cómo se forman capacidades duras y blandas y se definen roles. Y la gobernanza de datos, que lo hacemos a través de una gobernanza efectiva de la infraestructura. De esta manera fue que llegamos a impulsar con la OEA este curso de formación de líderes de datos porque consideramos que la formación, el tener elementos cognitivos siempre progresivos, nos da una pauta muy distinta. La creatividad y la innovación son inherentes a la humanidad, pero imagínense cuando eso está forjado desde conocimientos sólidos. Entonces, pues justamente en ese sentido fue que impulsamos este curso y realizamos 11 sesiones durante 2 meses que tuvieron que ver con fundamentos de datos, con las tecnologías emergentes e inteligencia artificial, el rol del Chief Data Officer, que es súper importante cómo esta figura puede cambiar las decisiones dentro de las instituciones, la gobernanza e infraestructura, la formación de equipos, cómo estamos formando a nuestros equipos que toman las decisiones y que lideran el tema de los datos. La comunicación y storytelling, cómo estamos comunicando la necesidad, cómo estamos priorizando las temáticas, y cómo estamos construyendo las agendas de datos. Y finalmente la toma de decisiones. Con todo esto tenemos ya un cúmulo importante para tener una toma de decisiones más informada y que mejore e incide en la población. Este es el primer programa pensado para el sector público, mientras que otros cursos se han enfocado en la industria tecnológica, tal vez en la programación o en la ciencia de datos. Este programa lo que busca es formar a líderes públicos con enfoques en gobernanza, estrategia, la negociación o cabildeo y la toma de decisiones en contextos reales del sector público. Tuvimos 47 participantes en este curso, fueron 12 países de América Latina, esta fue nuestra primera edición, buscamos que próximamente haya una siguiente. Y los participantes, las y los participantes diseñaron teorías de cambio basadas en problemas reales de sus instituciones. Lo que hicimos fue invitarles a que hicieran un diagnóstico y a partir de ese diagnóstico, que fuera muy particular respecto a la institución de la que provenían en algún momento poder judicial, pero también podía ser como una organización de sociedad civil en materia de infancias, que tuvieran muy bien ubicadas las problemáticas y cómo tendrían que usar los datos, cómo los datos más bien les ayudarían a formular mejores políticas y tomar mejores decisiones. Desarrollaron hojas de ruta con acciones concretas desde su rol como Chief Data Officers, y también hicieron un ejercicio donde elaboraron las facultades, las atribuciones que debería tener esta figura y también cómo debería formarse un equipo especialista en datos. Y bueno, finalmente, lo que nos gustaría decirles hoy es invitarles a la acción y sobre todo a las alianzas estratégicas. Es muy importante que el servicio público tenga estas oportunidades de ampliar sus conocimientos, y para ello pues sería importante tener alianzas en financiamiento de becas que se apoye el desarrollo de líderes de datos en instituciones con recursos limitados, porque sabemos que los recursos no siempre son tan amplios. Sin embargo, es importante que pensemos en que más allá de que le denominemos en ocasiones recurso humano, las personas no somos recursos para nada, sino somos quienes impulsamos y quienes motivamos y quienes mejoramos las políticas dentro de las instituciones. El tema de la docencia y mentoría, compartir conocimientos especializados con futuros líderes del sector, la difusión del programa, que ojalá nos puedan ayudar a llegar a más instituciones públicas en toda la región y que se sumen también a este proyecto, ¿no? Yo acabo de escuchar a diversas personas y también hay una comunidad enorme aquí con una experticia y una trayectoria importante que seguramente nos podrá sumar y colaborar en las siguientes ediciones. Sería un placer que estuvieran en las siguientes ediciones y bueno, pues concluyo comentando que hoy más que nunca las personas líderes de datos tienen un rol clave en la implementación ética de inteligencia artificial en el sector público. Y bueno, pues espero que haya sido en los tiempos. Cualquier duda que tengan, estoy a tus órdenes.
Muchísimas gracias, Atenas, por la presentación. Me parece que sumó muchísimo esta sesión poder conocer un programa de formación de este estilo, impulsado desde sociedad civil y en conjunto con un organismo internacional, en este caso regional, como es la OEA. Así que muchísimas gracias por compartir la experiencia. We are running out of time. I'm going to switch to English to close the session. Unfortunately, we don't have today, we had a pretty packed agenda, so we don't have time for questions, but don't worry, there are still a lot of ways to keep engaged. So if the speakers are okay, we would like to share the presentation with the Implementation Working Group Network via email in the next few days so that you can access all the materials. And if you have any doubt or if you want to make any additional contact or connection, I encourage you to write to the Implementation Working Group email, so that it's a way where we can all communicate. So if we still have any doubt, we can totally address that through our email. And also, I have shared just a few minutes ago our action plan for this year for the Implementation Working Group sessions. Please take a look at it so you can know the different topics that we are going to address through the year. And as I was telling you at the beginning of the session, we still have more sessions on AI and data privacy and data governance. So we encourage you to join the next sessions of the year to keep the conversation going. And with that, I would like to mention that our next session on May is going to be about digital public infrastructure, the role of open data and AI in a public digital transformation. It's a huge topic nowadays, so we would really like to count with your presence to discuss in the next meeting. And I would like to thank the speakers, the 4 speakers that were present today, for sharing their experience and their knowledge. And that's all for now. Thank you so much and hope to meet you again soon. Thank you for joining.
Bye all.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, everybody.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.